Welcome in, everybody, to episode 54 of the Two Pad Stack podcast. I'm your host, Ace. Alongside me, once again, Jake Reiser. Jake, how's it going, buddy?
I'm all right. That was a slog of a week. I feel like I could have been a little better, but personally, I'm not doing too bad. How about yourself?
Not bad, not bad. I'm not a big fan of the West Coast trips myself, just because as a human being, I tend to prioritize my sleep. I really enjoy sleeping. And these 9:30, 10 o'clock starts, they're doing a number on me. And I wonder if they're doing a number on the Bruins too. So we're gonna dive into these games here. Um, Good, bad, the ugly. So there'll be plenty to talk about with these tilts that happened over there in Colorado and in Utah. Just two games to talk about today, so it was a lighter schedule from when we recorded last, but we certainly do have that to go over. We're also going to talk about what's going on tonight as of the time of recording. You're going to have the Bruins playing the Nashville Predators. So we'll give you a quick little preview on that one there. And then also we have our reoccurring segment once again today, our studs and duds. So excited to go ahead and share our picks for those again. And then we're also going to go ahead and hit the mailbag and get some listener questions in today. So pretty excited to get it started here. Jake, what say you on jumping in and talking a little bit about the week that was for the Boston Bruins?
Yeah, absolutely. As Ace said, we only had two games. Last Wednesday, we were at Colorado, the start of the road trip that the Bruins are on right now. Got a 5-3 win over the Colorado Avalanche. I believe they were 0-5 coming into that game, and or 0-4. They were still looking for their first win. So we were able to put the pedal to the metal and get on the board first with Cole Koepke, get a nice tip on an Andrew Peeke clapper there. I think we spoke it into existence that last week Ace had Coyle as his dud and said he's got to get on the board. He's got to do something. Coyle finally got his first there. Finished the period up 2-1. And then Pasta and Hammer scored in the second, 13 seconds apart. Two very interesting goals. Definitely some negatives to take out of that game. The PK is still terrible.
Oh, yeah.
They went 0 for 3. Granted, Colorado's penalty or power play guys are studs. Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, Mikko
Rantanen, yeah.
Ross Colton is on a tear. I think he's their leading scorer right now, but still
Lightning legend.
Usable to go 0 for 3.
Yeah, it was rough for me. I mean, just for my take on it, it was, it was a win, and when you kind of look at the Colorado Avalanche, you still have that thought that they are a top tier. They're supposed to be a wagon team in the West. And for one reason or another, Joe Sakic and the coaching staff over there, forget his name, just can't quite.
Bednar.
Thank you. Great. I see his silly haircut. And that's all I can think of is that damn haircut. But yeah, Bednar, they just can't quite seem to get it going on the defensive side of things. And, they're trying to outscore their problems. And when, Alexander Forgiev, I love that. When he's putting them in a pickle in the first period every single game, like it's not great. And to be fair, once again, card carrying member of the goaltenders union. It's not exclusively on Georgiev. It's not like they're playing tremendously great defense in front of him. But if for a team that was really ailing on scoring in the top six, being able to get out and score early once Koepke opened it up, I think was a nice little step in the right direction for the Boston Bruins against the Colorado Avalanche.
I'll play a little devil's advocate too that they are injured to high hell. Like they still don't have Gabriel Landeskog.
Yep.
Devon Toews, who's arguably their best two-way defenseman, is hurt. I say two-way. Makar is a phenomenal offensive defenseman. Toews has it good on both sides. So Toews is hurt. They've got a lot of holes in their lineup. So I'll give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. But
it's still mind-boggling to me that they got Devon Toews for a second-round pick from the Islanders back in the day. Like,
was that a Lamoriello trade?
Yeah, it was.
Man, that hurts them. Oof. The other good thing, Jonas Korpisalo gets his first win as a member of the Bruins. Nice to see there. Corpy Wall getting it done. But you'd hope they'd carry momentum into the second game of this road trip on Saturday. They played Utah, their first time at the Delta Center. And it's like they hit a wall there. Cole Kepke with the only goal went 5-hole on Connor Ingram in the second period. It was like rush the offensive zone, hit the blue line, and turn it over. And that was basically the entire game. It was extremely frustrating to watch on the offensive side. Swayman had to stand on his head numerous times. He made 31 saves total or 30 saves total, something like that. There were definitely some interesting moments that in the third period, Kyler Yamamoto did tie the game up at 1-1. However, the best video review team in the league, the Boston Bruins, old Matty chimed down to Monty or one of his coaches and said, "Hey, I think Yamamoto was actually offside before that goal was scored." Turns out he was right. Yamamoto was in the zone before the puck, or like before the puck came in, and Yamamoto didn't have possession, so that goal got waved off. But I think the even more interesting thing after that is even though the goal got waved off, there was a shot of Monty screaming at Marsh on the bench, like just full on yelling, aggressive, really upset about something. So,
Yeah.
I wonder what it was.
Yeah, I have no idea, and there wasn't a lot of talk about it post game. Usually when you see those moments, the reporters on site are like, "Well, what was the?" They're not going to get an answer out of anybody. That's going to stay in house. But the reporters will still usually ask, and I don't know if that was really the case in that scenario, and maybe that's just because it's the parties involved. It being Marchand. If he was yelling at Fabian Lysell fresh off a call up, you can guarantee that would be asked. But the before we keep breaking down this game, I also, speaking of video coaches, Matt Myers, video coach for the Boston Bruins, congratulations on being named to the New Hampshire Hockey Hall of Fame. So really stoked for you, buddy. If you guys don't know, Matt actually started off on the coaching staff here at the UNH Wildcats. So I remember watching Cats games back in the day at the Whittemore Center in Durham Arena, and I'd see Matt back there and just grinding away. And the fact that you're able to just carve that career out of just nose to the grindstone, passion for the game, it's so inspirational. And shout out to you, Matt. Congratulations on that achievement. I hope for you that there's many more to come. And he had a great quote about it too. He was talking about how the sport has already done so much for him, and he hopes to leave the sport in a better place than what it was when he found it. So just nothing but amazing things to say about Matt. I hope he stays the Bruins video coach for a long, long time alongside his partner there. And yeah, just super stoked about that.
Aside from being a great video coach, he sounds like a great guy in general, and that's Bruins culture for you.
Exactly. My thoughts on Utah. I thought that the Boston Bruins ran up against a team that was energized. That team is clearly stoked to no longer be the Arizona Coyotes. They are just, it's like they got a shot in the arm and they are just ready to run through a wall. They've got a full barn, a very interesting barn. My understanding is, I guess, the Delta Center will eventually see renovations, so you don't have that infamous section where you can't see.
Season, they will, yeah.
Yeah, there's one section that you can't see the goal from some seats, which I don't know if you've ever been to
12,000 unobstructed seats, and then there's definitely a couple thousand that are obstructed.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have ever been to a live hockey game, but seeing both nets is kind of important when you go to have the experience. So hopefully they can get that remedied pretty soon. But from what I saw, it was an absolute party in there. Utah is having a good job, doing a good job filling the barn. Players are into it. And that's a really, really young team, and a really, really skilled team. And, honestly, I was kind of surprised that they didn't fall into some of the traps of being a young team and what those are. You think of like Buffalo and what they've been struggling with for so long. Is they're a high pace, flashy team, but they tend to make a lot of mistakes defensively. And I thought Utah actually did a really, really good job of mitigating and muffling the Boston Bruins as they tried to get any kind of offensive pressure. Now, whether that's kudos to Utah or, more of the same from the top nine from the Boston Bruins, like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, get it going. I'm not 100% sure, but, I thought that they played a good system game, and they bided their time until they were able to, draw even, and then they won when it counts on a questionable penalty called on David Pastrnak in overtime, as far as I'm
Yep.
concerned.
What's so interesting about the defense of Utah is there, aside from, I guess, Mikhail Sergachev, and I know that Sean Durzee's hurt, it's a lot of guys who are, either failed prospects, weird veterans. They had Ian Cole and Robert Bortuzzo there. Yusuf Alamaki is a kind of failed-ish first-round draft pick, but
And they don't even have John Marino yet. He's on the shelf.
for a while, too. But they've got such an interesting young core between Captain Clayton Keller, Dylan Gunther, Matthias Michelli, Lawson Krause, Logan Cooley, Josh Doan. They really have something going on in Utah. And not to say that it would have been exactly the same result if this were in Arizona, but the energy of the crowd, the energy of a new market, I'm not saying it's nothing. They're playing really good hockey. I feel like Andre Tourigny should be really happy with the way his club is performing. And I think it's both. I think Utah played a really well-structured, fast-paced game. I saw a lot of talk about this on Twitter. This was a game between an ultimate speed team in Utah and an ultimate size team in Boston. And the speed clearly won out.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And then I going back to the whole Arizona culture thing, Boston is oftentimes considered to be one of the pinnacle teams in terms of team culture. Like, it's become almost as obnoxious to hear about on the national media side of things as when they started talking about the perfection line. Like, it's getting pretty redundant, but Arizona seemed to be like that anti-Boston. Like, they would seem to find ways to lose. They would steal defeat from the jaws of victory on a nightly basis. And I don't know, maybe having an owner team like what they have over there with the Smiths in Utah is what that franchise needs to take a big step forward. Now, I'm not proclaiming the Utah Hockey Club the Stanley Cup champions for 2024, 2025. They've still got a long way to go, but they've gotten out to a great start. They're a hot team, and you can book it. I think that they're going to be making a statement in the playoffs here in the Western Conference for this year.
I think they're certainly on a path to much more sustained success. And you're right. I think, when you feel it from the top, it trickles all the way down to the bottom. As much as there were a lot of Bruins fans at Delta Center on Saturday night, there was an entire cheering section. There was a very loud "Let's Go Bruins" in the first minute of the game. So there's still some time. There's still things that need to get worked on, but I'll certainly give Utah the credit it deserves for putting the Bruins up against the ropes for a lot of that game. And, the overtime monster got us again. You're right, questionable penalty on Pasta, and in that vulnerable minute, Michael Kesselring roofs one past Swayman. So
New Hampshire native Michael Kesselring. I don't know if you knew that.
I did not.
Yeah. I think he was actually born elsewhere, but he played his high school hockey and stuff up here in New Hampshire. So
there you go.
603 connection. There we go, baby. But no, I mean, you probably heard us talking about it, and if you're listening to the podcast, you're probably a Bruins fan. You already know what they did this week. But 1-0-1 in 2 games, that's not bad, right? 3 out of 4 points ain't bad. But man, this team is leaving a lot on the table right now, and I know that they can give more. And we're gonna definitely dive in and talk about, especially in our duds of the week, who we think we could probably, get a little bit more out of the squeeze from. So there's your breakdown of the last 2 games. Overall, we have some takeaways. Jake, what are your overall takeaways from the 2 games together? Let's lump them together.
Yeah. Still too many penalties. Wholeheartedly an undisciplined team this Boston Bruins squad is. They are certainly in the top 5 of PIM in the league so far. I can take a quick look and see where they are in general, but this team is just penalized up the wazoo. And with their penalty kill as bad as it is, it has to stop. It just has to stop. That's a huge takeaway. When you go shorthanded, you're minimizing your chances of success. If you're going 0 for 3 on the penalty kill, if you're going down 4 times, even if you don't give up a power play goal to the opposition, that's still 8 total minutes if they're all minors that you're shorthanded, that you're not necessarily on the attack and ready to win. You are setting yourself up for a lot of failure if you are taking so many penalties. So that has to stop, number 1. Number two, we keep harping on all the time. It's still not enough top six production. It's not happening. I don't think Elias Lindholm had any points since last week. David Pastrnak might have had the only goal, really. Charlie Coyle, I guess, but right now I'd call him fringe top 9 at this point with the way he's been putting up, skating. It's just not enough. It's so not enough. I know Marshy had the assist on the Cole Koepke goal in Utah, but I'm really frustrated with this, and I don't know whether we have to keep changing the lineup or whether we have to call someone up, or whether you just let it sit. You just let it sit and you just let them figure it out on their own, because enough has to be enough at some point. I think they've had 3 different line combinations in 3 games so far since the last, since what was it, LA, before they went on the road trip. So that was Florida. Pardon me, it was Florida, the matinee. They've had 3 line combinations. So I don't know what's going on in the top 6. That has to get fixed. On the flip side, though, the defense is just racking up points. And I know that was a big point of contention internally last year. Hammer with a goal, Peak with an assist. If this blue line can keep putting up points, that hopefully takes a lot of the burden off maybe.
And you go back to like the Florida game, like we had Brandon Carlo and Mason Lohrei with snipes. Like the defense is obviously getting the message that they need to be activating. And it seems like top to bottom, we're getting guys to do it. Like of the top 6 D-men that we have, like Brandon Carlo is not the guy that I would kind of project being that guy to pinch in, make a good play, and then rip it top corner. Like, and he did it. Like, it can come all across this organization right now on the defensive side. So we just gotta, if we could just button up the forward core, I think we're in a great spot right now.
I think that's the hard thing too, is just what do you do? We'll get to maybe some of those alternatives in a little bit, but there's one forward line you still don't have to fix. And that's that fourth line, who continues to be the stars, the darlings of the NHL. And it's getting national recognition. They're, I think, one of the best lines in the NHL in general, beating up most teams' top lines. They continue to put up points. They continue to put up fight. They continue to play smart hockey. It's extremely energizing to watch. And I wish it would just rub off on everybody else.
I know. Well, I mean, you say that we have one line that we don't have to worry about, but at this point, some of the players in that line deserve a promotion, right? So, like, at what point did the Boston Bruins say, okay, when are we going to address the second line right wing position? Who do we do that with? Tyler Johnson? No, we have too much cap up right now. We don't have the ability to do that. Call up Fabian Lysell. Well, we'd have to send somebody down, and we don't want to expose somebody to waivers. Put Cole Koepke on the second line right wing right now. The kid is cooking with gas. Like, if we need to get the top 6 going, throw him up there. He's scored in like 4 straight games, I feel like now. It's wild. And I understand that, suddenly the fourth line isn't as effective if you disrupt the chemistry that these guys are bringing up. But we need the bigger lines that have more minutes on the ice to be able to contribute. I'm not saying that Cole Koepke will definitely be the catalyst to create an offensive machine in the top 6, but you also want to set up a culture internally in the organization that rewards people and players for their successes on the ice. Because if you have a player that's on the bubble that suddenly becomes an all-star, you don't want to just be like, oh, well, we signed you to a minimum contract that's waivers eligible, and we're going to send you down because that's what's the most flexibility for us. No, man, you're going to put the best players in the best place to succeed. And right now, Cole Koepke's the best guy to succeed right now because he's cooking. So that's my rant. I'm going to say, put Cole Koepke on the second line right wing and put Charlie Coyle on the third line center and put Matty Poitras as 2C. So Koepke, Poitras, whoever you want, Marchand on the left wing, I don't care. Like, let's figure something out here. We got to put it more in the blender here, Jimmy Montgomery.
See, I've got a really interesting little flip I would want to make. Okay. That if Elias Lindholm has been touted to be a Bergeron type player, and he's looked it so far, why are you not putting Marchand with him? Why do you not have a line of Marchand, Pastrnak, and Lindholm together and have that be kind of like a mock perfection line, and you try that and see what happens? Zacha clearly needs a demotion right now. He's not doing anything. He's not earning those top line minutes. So I'd have Marshy, Lindy, and Pasta on the top. Zacha, Potsy, and if you're gonna put Koepke on that second line, fine by me. And then you got Freddie, Geeky, and we'll get to this in a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, Coyle. And then you throw Brazeau on that fourth line instead of Koepke, and you've got Beecher, Kastelik, and Brazeau, unless Yeah, we'll get into this later in the mailbag, but we
Yeah.
got a lot of thoughts on Justin Brazeau this week. But maybe
Yeah.
this is a good segue into studs and duds if you want to kick it off, Ace.
Well, before we do that, let's go ahead and give a shout out to our sponsors for this week's episode and this whole season. So we're going to go ahead and send you over to those right now. This season, the Two Pat Stack podcast is proudly supported by two fantastic local businesses. First, we're going to give a shout out to Earth Eagle Brewings, where great beer meets great company. With locations in both Portsmouth and Somersworth, New Hampshire, Earth Eagle is something for everybody. Whether you're relaxing in their Portsmouth beer garden or enjoying live music and trivia at the Somersworth pub, you'll be in good hands with their craft beers, epic hot dogs, and much more. And don't forget, if you're into brewing your own beer, their homebrew shop has you covered in Somersworth. And when it comes to tattooing, there's no better place than Vital Ink Tattoo in Barrington, New Hampshire. The artists at Vital Ink are all about turning your ideas into tattoos you'll love forever. The team works hard to make sure every visit is comfortable, and their dedication to making your tattoo experience fun and relaxing is unmatched. Whether you're getting your first piece or adding to your collection, Vital Ink is the place to go. Special thanks to both of these sponsors for supporting the Two Pat Stack podcast this season. Be sure to check them out and show them some love. All right, and we're back. And yeah, you heard Jake before the little break here. It's time for studs and duds. So, did you lead us off last week?
I think I did. I think it's your turn to go for it.
Okay. I'll go first. My studs and duds are going to be a little less stat based this week, and we're riding on vibes. I think it's the week to ride on vibes here for me. And we're going to start off with let's get the good out of the way first before I start tearing apart people. And I got to go with my stud of the week. He only played one game, but Jonas Corposalo has collected his first win in the black and gold. So, not just a win, because you can be a really questionable goaltender and get a win in this league when your team's playing really, really well. I thought that Jonas Corposalo played really confidently in this game. And if the Bruins could put their discipline trouble away, that would have been a game that they probably would have had a chance at getting that elusive shutout in black and gold. So was really happy with the way that he played. I think that the way he played instilled confidence in his team around him. And half of the battle when you are an NHL goaltender is just making sure that your team believes in you and wants to go and fight for you. So I loved what I saw out of Jonas Corposalo. Hope to see more of it. That's the kind of performance we need to make sure that Jeremy Swayman doesn't have too many games, and he can stay at that energy level that he needs to be as effective as possible. So my stud of the week is Jonas Corposalo. My dud of the week, Jesus. It's like I understand that people love their emotional support Providence players. I feel like so many of these Boston Bruins fans, they find one like borderline fringe player and they just make it their personality trait. This particular player seems to have a lot of people that have found themselves in that bucket. We're in a real pickle right now with offensive production in the top 9. Top 6 as well, if you want to go that granular. Justin Brazeau, my dude, you are 6'6". Like, I understand that you score a lot of nice little in tight goals. You did it last year for us. You were good in the playoffs, but dude, you're not doing anything right now on the ice for me. Like I don't know if somebody needs to just bank a puck off your ass to get you going or something, but like you're just not doing it, man. You're not fast, which is granted when you're 6'6". You're not making good plays. You're not making possession plays. Like at this point, I would rather see Justin Brazeau on the 9th floor at TD Garden and let somebody else get a shot. Like call up Fabian Lysell, wave Riley Tufte, send him to Providence, sign Tyler Johnson. Like just we need to do something else in the top 9. And Justin Brazeau, I feel like he's a black hole on offense right now. And I know that's brutal. I know that's very critical, but I had to pick somebody for my dud, and he's the unfortunate scapegoat for me this week.
Those sound about appropriate, though. I like giving Corpy the shout out there. I agree if the PK weren't as bad as it was, maybe you get that elusive shutout because their offense was not good for a
Yeah.
majority of the game, unless they were on special teams for Colorado.
Right.
So, give Corpy a lot of credit. Ride those vibes. He should be feeling good about getting his first win on black and gold. We'll talk about Brezzo in our mailbag. We've got a good question about that there, but I don't disagree with you seeing him in the bottom there. I'm definitely riding a little more on what I've seen in the past week. I think the stud is pretty obvious. We've already had a rant about him so far in a good way. My stud of the week is Cole Koepke. He said last week that the system is coming easy to him, and it's very clear that it is. Between scoring goals, being in the right places, bringing the energy, playing smart, it's him and his line mates that are. It's extremely fun to watch this fourth line right now, but I think Kastelik was a big focal point early on in that first week. You come to week number 2, Koepke steps up. Maybe next week, Beecher will be one of our studs. Maybe it'll be the trifecta of that fourth line who will show up for everybody. But right now, Cole Koepke putting in a couple goals, looking fantastic. Yeah, very unexpectedly so. I think even when we were talking in the preseason and, before the season started, we didn't even have him penciled in. We were like, Koepke's going to go to Providence. Koepke's not going to be on the team. So
yeah,
huge surprise. We thought that maybe that was Ty Joe's spot on the roster. So credit to Cole Koepke. Great having him as my stud. My dud, this goes back to one of the big takeaways of the week. Still too many penalties. Nikita Zadorov has taken a penalty in his first 6 games as a Boston Bruin. Every single game you find him in the box. He clearly leads the team in PIM by far. He's got 19 penalty minutes compared to Charlie McAvoy's 10 at second. When you are putting your team in a bad position, when you are in the box, when you can't be generative on offense, you are giving your team so many opportunities to lose. Stop. Just stop, Nikita. I'm sure if I look at his possession metrics, he's been very iffy. He's been back and forth even this last week, too. I think he looked pretty good in the Colorado game, and in the Utah game, it looked like he was a giraffe on skates. So stay out of the box. Do a little better. Nikita Zadorov, you're my dud of the week.
Yeah, no, I like those picks. And if you can't tell, I let Jake have the nice picks this week. I let him have first pick. But no, I love Koepke. Jake's 100% right. This is not a guy that was even on my radar. Like, he was Providence fodder, and I saw him at camp, and I wasn't tremendously, impressed at camp either. But something about Zadorov though that I want to mention is that I don't want to be the guy that whines about the refs. That's not the. I mean, I do it a lot. I don't mean to. I really don't. I know a lot of refs that are buddies of mine. But some of these calls are just garbage. Like, I've seen so many slashing calls already this year.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot stand the I drop my stick slashing call. Like, I understand if you slash down and you break the stick, that's an automatic call, whether you want to question the integrity of the sticks or whatever. But when a player is barely holding onto the stick with one hand and another player stick checks them and he drops the stick, that should not be a penalty. This is the NHL, guys. We're not playing Mites hockey, and I know what that looks like. I know what Mites hockey looks like. Like, hold on to your damn stick. Like, there's no reason why that should be a penalty. And I think that Zadorov has gotten assessed with 2 of those where the other guy just dropped his stick. And
I think he did on that Cooley penalty in Utah where he had him like on his stick and Cooley just totally let his hands come up and up and up and let Zadorov's stick ride him until it looked like it was a slashing call or a hooking call or something like that. But here's 2 things that I'll say though. We are in that feeling out period in the first few weeks of the season before Stephen Walkom, the director of officiating and vice president of the NHL, comes down to the officiants and says, hey, here's what we're seeing. Here's what we're hearing. Here's how we need you guys to adjust. Can you handle that? So we're still in that feeling out period for the season. But also, you don't get in the refs' good graces if you're jawing at them all the time. Zadorov going to the box, chirping the refs, jawing at them. I was covering for Stanley Cup of Shadow over on SB Nation, and I believe I very much tweeted that he was jawing at the refs all the way to the box. And yeah, granted, it wasn't a great call, but sometimes you just got to eat it and sit down and, don't risk getting yourself an unsportsmanlike. Don't put yourself in the refs' bad graces so they're even more scrutinous of you. There's a number of Bruins who have done that. I know McAvoy did that. Marshy did that in the game against Montreal in that home opener where there was that weird delay of game call where he flipped it up in the offensive zone and he was screaming at the refs and he slammed the box door. But, I get it. Just stop jawing at the refs. Don't put yourself in a position where they're just going to scrutinize you even more and call you for the even more ticky-tacky things. So, I'll give everybody a little bit of credit, but it does have to stop. In the end, it does have to stop. And that means knowing that refs are going to make bad calls. And so stopping yourself from being in bad positions where you're going to get those weird calls against you.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, discipline needs to be addressed, as a whole for the Boston Bruins. But at least we're not taking too many men on the ice penalties like we did last postseason run. Oh my god, that was frustrating. All right, what say we go to the mailbag here?
Absolutely, let's reach on in.
All right. So first off, we have a question from Christopher Sadler. And that's going to segue into what we were talking about earlier with our good friend Justin Brazeau. So Chris asks, at what point do we end the Justin Brazeau experiment? And I've already kind of provided some of my thoughts on this. I think a couple nights off up on the ninth floor to look at the game a little bit more. It's not like he has a tremendously long runway of NHL experience. And having a few nights off, eating a bag of popcorn up there, watching things going on, I don't think would be an awful thing for him. So I'm not saying waive him and send him down to Providence, but I think giving him a couple of nights off, healthy scratch now, as in the Nashville game, would be the right play. Are you in alignment with that, Jake?
I am. I think he needs a couple nights off or a couple games off to reset his game. It's worked already with one person who had to sit down as a healthy scratch and has come back and basically become a top pairing guy, and that's Mason Lohrei. He sat for a game and he's come back and looked absolutely phenomenal. I think, honestly, aside from maybe Hampus Lindholm, he's been one of my best defensemen so far this year. I think Lohrei's looked phenomenal since his healthy scratch. He's been the real deal. I think it would do Brazeau some good. I would still waive either Riley Tufte or Max Jones, probably Tufte, send him down to Providence, have Lysell as an option, while you're doing that. But I definitely think Brazeau, you at least sit him. I don't think you end the experiment for now, but I think he needs to take a good hard look. He was really good last year. We know he has it in him. He just needs the time to figure it out. And I don't know whether it's the pressure that I think he was on that second line in the last game. He played with Marchand and Coyle. So I don't know whether there's too much pressure. It feels like the big hole in the roster switched from first line center to second line right wing. And that, I get it. It's a lot, but someone has to fill it somehow. And Brazeau needs the time to sit and think, can he do it? Is he a third line guy? Is he a fourth line guy? Is he worthy being on the roster? He's got to sit and figure this out. So I wouldn't end it just yet, but it definitely needs a bit of a break.
I think he needs to get back to what a guy his size needs to do to be successful at the NHL level. I'm not saying he needs to be Tom Wilson out there, but he also needs to be a little bit more aggressive. And sometimes I feel like, I don't know if you've ever seen this SpongeBob episode, and it's weird to bring a SpongeBob reference in, but we talked about this during the Mite games this previous weekend, is that there's too much just kind of complacency when it comes to the opposition. And, think of when Plankton is talking to SpongeBob about when the guy steals SpongeBob's ice cream cone, right? Do you remember this? And Plankton has him walk up and he's like, now go ahead and tell him what's yours. Give it to him. And SpongeBob's like, that's my ice cream cone. And you go ahead and give it to him. Take it. You can have it. And he just let him have it. And I feel like sometimes Justin Brazeau just doesn't have that killer instinct a guy his size should have in order to secure the puck and maintain puck possession and make plays in tight areas. And I feel like he did that last year. He just didn't quite translate it to this year. I don't know if he thought that he had the job in the bag and he just isn't really competing the level he was before. But hopefully the coaching staff sees something similar and they have the right buttons to push and the right message to send. But yeah, I really think that I would like to see more out of him. Um, and whether that's Providence, ninth floor, whatever, I think a couple nights off will be good. Next question in the mailbag, unless you have any other Brazo thoughts.
No, I think that
Yeah.
sounds about right for me. I hope, Chris, that answers your question and you're at least satisfied with what we have to say.
Yeah, and if not, yell at us. Just reply to us and ask more questions. Next question. What player do you think needs to improve so far? And that's from Tommy Bennett. Well, we just talked about Justin Brazeau. But no, I'll pick another player. And it hurts me, it pains me to say this. Friend of the show. We had him on last year. I would love to see more from Morgan Geekie because for somebody that everybody's been labeling as a bottom six guy, he was given an elevated position in the top six out of camp. And he had a vote of confidence from our captain, Brad Marchand, who was publicly campaigning for him to be the second line right wing when there was probably other candidates that were more equipped based upon their performance in the preseason. I'm not seeing a lot, geeks. I'm not, buddy, and I love you. Like you came out and you said to the press that you read what everyone says online and you consider yourself to be a skill guy. You can be a skill guy in the CHL and not be a skill guy in the NHL. When you start to get to this next level, you need to identify what your role is. And it seems to be like maybe the coaching staff hasn't had that conversation with him yet, and reality hasn't quite set in because right now he's not a top six guy. He's a bottom six versatile. Ideally, I think he's a great third line player, and it's just not working out for him right now in the top six. So that's my player that I think needs to improve the most outside of Justin Brazeau. What are your thoughts, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, I like the pick there for Geeks. He has 0 points in 5 games and is a -4. It's not good enough. And again, I like your analogy from SpongeBob. You can have it. I feel like that's been everybody who's been trying to fill the second line right wing so far between Geeky, Brazo, Pottruck, whoever's been in there is just, here you go.
Now give it to him. You can have it.
So that's been really frustrating to see for me so far. This is a player, I guess my pick here is someone who we haven't caught out enough, I would say, within the top six, and that's Pavel Zacha, who had a great year last year. And it feels like a ghost this year. I feel like he's slipping under the radar of needing the criticism. I know we talked about Brad Marchand a couple of times already that, Monty yelled at him. So I feel like that could have been an obvious choice, but he's the leader. You expect him to fix his game at some point. He's got 4 assists. He'll figure it out. He'll get on the goal scoring sheet at some point. And he's the leader emotionally in that clubhouse. I feel like Zacha's just got kind of skating under the radar here. And maybe is benefiting from that, is benefiting from, Marchand doing what he needs to do for this team, or maybe lack thereof, benefiting from everybody putting some focus maybe on Elias Lindholm and putting some focus on that second line right wing. I feel like I haven't seen anything from Pavel Zacha. What's his stats? He is a goal and an assist in 6 games and 9 penalty minutes. He had the shorty in the opening game. I just haven't seen much of it from him.
Yeah. And that's the thing for me too with Pavel Zacha. Like I thought that he would have enough chemistry with David Pastrnak. And honestly, his savviness on the two-way side of the game that developed a lot last year, I thought that would mitigate a lot of like the creativity and the unleashed offensive game that David Pastrnak has. But I'm just not seeing it. And Zacha, I honestly think probably has like the second best shot on the Boston Bruins. The way he can get these 1-2s off, similar to what Pasta does. I'm just not seeing it this year. And I don't know. Like you said, maybe we move him and swap him with Brad Marchand and changing up the lines will get him going a little bit because just need more. We need more out of the top six and just throw it in a blender. Like Claude Julien would have changed these lines up like 4 games ago. Like it's a little wild here. So there you go, Tommy. Appreciate the question. I know you listened into this episode here on 53, so hopefully you're able to check out 54 as well. All right, next question. From my boy Clint, aka R Dog 74. Do you think the Bruins will take home some individual hardware? And Jake, I'll let you lead off on this one.
That's such a hard question, and I just feel like the answer is no. Pasternak is great, but there are guys who are going to score more than him. Matthews, McDavid, uh, there are guys who will score more goals than him, more points than him. I want to quickly see who currently leads in the Richard, who's got the most points. That's Sam Reinhart right now, and Artemi Panarin and Cale Makar. Most goals right now is Nikita Kucherov with 7 goals in 4 games. It's absolutely absurd. Yeah, Kucherov and Panarin are guys who I would absolutely throw in there. I just don't think they have the, aside from Pasternak, the elite goal scorer to get them up there. Maybe Swayman for Vezina, if he decides to live up to the contract. But again, there are some other fantastic goaltenders in the NHL. Jake Ottinger, Connor Hellebuyck, Igor Shesterkin, Andrei Vasilevsky, Sergei Bobrovsky. Somehow, there are other guys who, are relied upon on a night-to-night basis, who have already more consistently put up a better game. And so it could be a nod for maybe one of the final 3. I just, you hope he puts up for Vezina. I would probably say he's the most likely to win an award, but I still don't think anybody does. I'll give my shout out, or very early on, for who will win the Vezina, though, is Jake Ottinger. He's another kid. He's a Dallas Stars guy, Boston University alum. Signed exactly the same contract as Jeremy Swayman last week. He signed an 8x66 total. So he's matching Sway's contract, and he's outplaying Sway right now. So that's my Vezina pick right now.
Well,
this year. But
I think
the question is no.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of funny because I was joking, not even joking. I was very serious when I said this, that Jeremy Swayman was not the guy to set the goaltender market. And what has he done? He's done just that, because he's had like 3 players afterward use his contract and parlay that into a contract extension. I mean, our old buddy Linus Ullmark signed for the same AAV. Ottinger took the exact same contract. And then you've got Shesterkin, who is using the money that Swayman got to argue that he's worth more than 11 something.
More than 12 something.
More than 12 something. Yeah. So it's hilarious. So in Swayman's defense, I do think that Dallas is a much deeper team than the Boston Bruins. I think Dallas is probably one of the top teams in the West, maybe behind. I think I'd probably put them number 2 in the West, behind Edmonton, even though they just beat them. But honestly, if you watch that game was all Edmonton until they were able to. The Dallas Stars were able to get one behind Stuart
Duchesne
Skinner.
on the power play.
Yeah, and Ottinger, to your point, he was a stud. He kept the Stars in it until they were able to get that home cooking going in Dallas. So, but yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it's the easy answer, right? If you're a betting man, the odds are no. The Boston Bruins will not have anybody winning any individual trophies. You'd think Pasta, like Jake mentioned, but I'm not seeing it so far. I've seen a lot of questionable plays out of David Pastrnak, and not really that aggression in order to score at a Hart level or Rocket Richard level pace. On the defensive side, I thought maybe McAvoy had a chance if he kept that production level from the start of the season, but that's fallen off. Lohrei isn't a true rookie. I don't think he would qualify for the Calder.
I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, I mean, that might be my best pick right now. Is Lohrei already has like 5 points on the season, I believe. It's either 4 or 5, almost at a point per game rate, which is pretty good. He is at a point per game if he's 5 because he got scratched for a game. So, if the kid can keep up a point per game pace as a D man, that's pretty good, and I think that might be worth a nod. But other than that, I mean, help me, Jeremy Swayman. You're my only hope. That's my Star Wars reference of the day. So, all right. Thank you very much, Clint. RDog74. Appreciate the question. Next up, we have our final question from our mailbag. We have a question from Chris Lynch, who asked, Why do you think the scoring has only been from the fourth line so far? A great question, Chris. I think if I knew that, I would probably be emailing Jim Montgomery and I would have a salary from the Boston Bruins. I don't think that they're doing enough to generate on the top side of things. They're doing a lot of dump and chase, but the chase is too slow. So it's just a dump and then the defense collects. The forecheck isn't where it needs to be. And the opposition is turning it up into transition. Um, when Don Sweeney signed Max Jones, Behind the B was in there, and they heard him talking about how they wanted somebody that could create anxiety on the forecheck. And I don't think anybody in the top 9 right now is creating any sort of anxiety in the forecheck. We talked about this as well. The Boston Bruins are the heaviest team in the NHL. And right now they're skating like the heaviest team in the NHL. They are skating like the big bad Bruins, but not like the bad like they're going to punch you in the mouth. They're skating like the big like they are bad at skating Bruins. And they need to get that corrected quickly if they're going to go ahead and get more production out of the top 9. And I'm confident that they will. I don't know if it's just the early season doldrums or whatever from them, but obviously these guys that are all on the fourth line, Johnny Beecher's, it's no secret that Johnny Beecher's a fast skater. That's always been his calling card, right? And then you've got two guys that have a lot to prove, right? There's nothing guaranteed for Mark Kastelik. There's nothing guaranteed for Cole Kepke. Like we said earlier in today's episode, Cole Kepke was a guy that I had earmarked for the Providence Bruins. So he had to go out there and fight for his life to get that job. And what is he doing? He is making the absolute most of it, and he has that mentality for every shift that he has on the ice. Mark Kastelik is going to play his tookus off every single shift when he's out there on the ice because that's just the guy that he is, and he wants to earn that reputation and be a Boston Bruin. I'm pretty sure his grandfather was a Bruin or something briefly is what I saw. I don't know if
Really?
you recall seeing that story, Jake, but yeah, I believe that his grandpa was a Bruin, which is kind of cool. But these guys all have to work and nothing is handed to them. And I think that some of that mentality needs to bleed up to the top 6 and top 9 for them to get back to where we were last year for production. Jake, what are your thoughts on Chris's question?
Yeah, I can say it's as much of a diss on the top 9 as it is on that fourth line. But, I think it's good roster construction. I think it is. I think you said it that Beecher's got the speed. Kastelik has the defensive acumen, has the face-off prowess, has the scoring touch, has the snarl. And Kepke's got absolutely nothing to lose, is playing like it. As I said earlier, he clearly feels the system is easy for him and he's adjusted and it's working for him. And it's the individuals and it's the combination that everybody individually, again, I hope to see Johnny Beecher as a stud for next week, but everybody individually is working their tails off. And that permeates through the whole line that when they play together, it's magic. So I don't know if it's sheer dumb luck as well. That's always a part of it. You just pray to the hockey gods and you go, please, please let me play well. I think it was Joe McDonald who might have tweeted out the last time the Bruins had a fourth line this good, they won the cup. I can't remember the last time the Bruins had a fourth line this good. I know that Merlot line was fantastic. I know I can go back to 2019 and Nola Chari, Joakim Nordstrom, Sean Corrali was a really fun fourth line to watch. But if this fourth line of Beecher, Kastelik, and Kepke somehow keep this up, they might be the best fourth line in the 21st century this Bruins team has had.
If they can keep, I mean, obviously, let's be realistic. They're not going to keep this pace up, but if they can play reliable minutes and play to a point where they are hemming in skill players from the opposition reliably, one of the best fourth line I've ever seen as a Boston Bruins fan, and I've been watching religiously for like 20 years. You think of the team that Mr. McDonald is talking about. You're talking about the Merlot line. I called them the Fribble Gang, Claude Julien's Fribble Gang. You had Sean Thornton, you had Dan Paille, you had Greg Campbell. I would probably equate Paille to the Beecher of the line, the fast player, the wheels, get you in the offensive zone quick. you know, but Sean Thornton and Craig Campbell were not like skill guys.
Mm-mm.
Like Sean Thornton would punch a guy before he would try to score a goal, and that was awesome. Boston Bruins faithful love that guy. I love the guy. But he did flash some skill there and there. I mean, I think we talked about it before, but that penalty shot he had, that was
Mhm.
that was wild. That's in the lore for the Boston Bruins fans. But um I think this fourth line is right there with them, if not better. I mean, especially if Castellic can take on that truculence that Sean Thornton had and just manage that. I'm not expecting to see Cole Kepke jumping into the fray anytime soon. Johnny Beecher had his first career fight last year, and it looked like his first career fight. So I think all that grit and fighting things will probably fall on Mark Castellic exclusively. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's a fun fourth line to watch, that's for sure, and I'm really enjoying what they're doing.
But they're playing smart too, and they're putting
Mhm.
themselves on the line. I see them sacrifice themselves more than anybody else. I made it a point in the Utah game to tweet out on the PK that Johnny Beecher broke his stick, still stayed out on the ice, sans twig, and put his body on the line, blocked the shot, let the puck come out of the zone. That's kind of the type of sacrifice I want to see from my fourth line. They're clearly providing it, and it's just really enjoyable. And it's not just that they're playing fun hockey. You can play fun hockey and still play, like villains and be like, oh, like I hate they're playing good hockey.
Yeah.
They're playing great, and it's all endearing. I love to see it. I'm rooting for these guys, and so really fun to watch. Great question, Chris. At least we get to end this mailbag on a bit of a high note, talking about something good.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, before we wrap today's episode, we're going to go ahead and take a quick peek as we look at the week ahead of us. So we'll be breaking down these games on episode 55. It's crazy to me that we're already at 54 right now. It is wild to me, but love to have you guys here listening. So next week, Tuesday on the 22nd, the Boston Bruins are visiting the recently rapidly retooled Nashville Predators. And not just retooled, but struggling. These Preds are struggling. Steven Stamkos just scored his first goal as a Nashville Predator in the loss that they had recently. I believe that what's their record? Do you have it up right now,
There,
Jake?
5-0, baby.
Ooh, yeah, that's not good. So Boston Bruins are going to be facing a desperate Nashville Predators team. The Predators were the most aggressive team in free agency. GM Barry Trotz was very, very active. They brought in Jonathan Marchessault on a big contract. They brought in Steven Stamkos on a big contract. They brought in Brady Shea on a big contract. They awarded goaltender UC Saros a big contract, and none of these guys are delivering yet. So the pressure is on. The heat is getting cranked up in Nashville. It's going to be fascinating to see how a fairly middling Boston Bruins team handles a desperate team in Nashville that's looking to get their first one of the season on
We'll
Tuesday
talk
night.
about Bruno next week, probably. Andrew Brunette, their head coach.
Yep, absolutely. Any other thoughts on the Nashville matchup?
Just win. You already won
Just
against the
win.
winless team. Just win. Go home with a little
Just win.
confidence.
Brezzo, I hope you score and make me shut up. That's what happens whenever I talk shit about people. They play out of their mind. So
Ace speaks and the bees listen.
yeah, exactly. All right. So after that, my cup pick for the year is coming to the Boston Bruins to visit, and that is the Dallas Stars. I just love their game. Jake already talked about Ottinger. They are a strong defensive team. They've got young players that are really good. I'm talking Jason Robertson. I'm talking Logan Stankoven. I'm talking all of these players from top to bottom in Dallas that just are not afraid to turn defense into offense and punch you right in the mouth in the process. So that'll be a great litmus test for the Boston Bruins to see where they stand against some of the elite teams in the league. Never mind conference, because obviously
I will
they're
be at the Garden with my dad for that one, so
excellent.
hopefully it's a good tilt.
I will not be, so I will have to wish you a wonderful game to hopefully celebrate a big dub against a good team. And then our good friends from the Great White North are coming to visit. Toronto will be in Boston on Saturday, October 26th. So should be a good few games here for the Boston Bruins. It'll be interesting to see how they fare. Any notes on the Toronto matchup?
On the Maple Leafs.
I see what you did there.
I know they're up at 5-1 on Tampa right now. As of recording, they will probably end up winning that game unless they somehow screw this up in a matter of 6 minutes. I know they gave up a hilarious goal tonight to Nick Paul, but it's interesting that we thought in the offseason that Toronto was going to reset everything, that they would try and chip off Tavares, that they'd let Marner go, they try and make a big package for him, and they did nothing of real impact.
Yeah.
The only
Well,
thing
I mean,
got to see on Matthews' sweater from Tavares's.
because he's a witch that believes in crystal powers. Did you see that? Like, what the hell was that shit?
You get older and you just get weirder, man. No offense.
Yeah, if you believe in magical crystal healing powers and you're still listening to us, by all means, keep listening. I won't ever talk about it again. But the one big move that I will acknowledge that the Leafs made after that Game 7 loss to the Boston Bruins was they sent Coach Sheldon Keefe packing, and now he's over and coaching the New Jersey Devils. And guess who they brought in? Our old friend Craig Berube, who dealt that Game 7 loss to the Boston Bruins in the 2019 Cup Final. So say what you want about Berube. He's a tough customer. He played the game, as some of the old heads would say, the right way. And he's going to make them work a lot harder than what Sheldon Keefe ever did, I believe. He's very much cut from that same, John Tortorella cloth. And it'll be interesting to see how a team led by Austin Matthews plays with a coach like that. But hey, early dividends are looking pretty good for our friends up there in Toronto.
I mean, they still got a goaltending issue. They never fixed that. Yeah. It's Wall, Stolars now, and Dennis Hildeby. Yeah. So they still don't have a true number one unless Wall decides to come out. But
well, Wall is the guy. I think he looks like the most promising player, obviously, in the blue and white. But he's got to stay healthy.
He's already missed a couple games this year and had an injury scare. So
yep, I do expect him to be healthy by the time the Boston Bruins have the Toronto Maple Leafs in the Garden to visit, but
hopefully he's not a brick wall and is more of a leaky sieve.
Yeah, I mean, the brick walls can come down if you hit them hard enough, so it's all good. All right, guys, that's going to go ahead and wrap up episode 54 of the Two Pad Stack podcast. We appreciate your listenership. Remember to follow us on all of our major platforms. You can find us on our website. That's www.twopadstackpod.com. We have merch. Buy our merch. We've got some cool shirts, beer glasses, all that kind of stuff. Beer glasses are perfect to try our official podcast beer Out of Hibernation from our friends at Backhill Beer Company. I have it on draft at home. It's quite tasty. I was sipping it the first half of this episode. So check that out. Once again, shout out to our friends at SeatGeek. You are able to save $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek with promo code 2PADStackPod, 2PADSTACKPOD. And also, you are able to save 10% off with our friends over at Iron and Steel Threads, which is a hockey lifestyle company that creates shirts, accessories, hoodies, and a portion of all of their profits goes back to making hockey affordable for kids that are trying to get into the sport. So use promo code 2PADStack10. That's 2PADSTACK10 to save 10% off your purchase with Iron and Steel Threads. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and finally wrap this thing up. Jake, buddy, appreciate you having on. You joining me here today to talk about some black and gold. And we'll go ahead and catch you all next week.
As always, enjoy the unseasonably nice fall weather, everyone.
Oh, this weather is too hot. All right. Bye, guys.